seconds. I've got to press a couple of buttons here. And again, welcome. I'm going to close this window, my browser window, because I really don't need it open for now. So I'll just close that. And I'm looking at my desktop and several different icons that you should see on your desktop that are really important to us. First of all, the Create 8, or this SC, this is our SoftChalk Create desktop version. That should be on your desktop, as well as this KCTCS1.zip file. This is the first series of files that we're going to be using, and it contains a lot of the content that we'll be using today, or actually all of it. And I want to start working with that particular file. What I want to do is unpackage it. And I'm going to place my packaged or unpackaged files directly on the desktop. So even if you don't have this zip package on your desktop, I'd like you to place the unpackaged version of it on your desktop just to make it real easy to find. Now, how do we do that? We just point to that zip package and we can see a zipper around it. Then we're going to right mouse click. That's going to open up a menu. What we want to now select is the Extract All command. This is going to start, we can think of this as a miniature wizard. In the old days of Microsoft, they used to call them wizards, but they've now just said, well, here's a screen. Now notice the screen. It may have a check in it that says show the extracted files when complete. If yours does have a check in it, remove that check. And then let's click on the Browse button so we can change the destination of those extracted files. So I'm going to click on Browse, and I'm just going to choose the desktop. Then I'll click OK. That should be your location for where we want to put these files. We'll then click on Extract. Now, obviously, if you're using a Macintosh, then the Macintosh doesn't have to extract anything, because when it downloads that zip file, it automatically extracts it. Now, what I would like you to do is take that file from your Downloads folder and place it on your desktop. And that's what we've just done here. So I now have that KCTCS1 folder, and it's now been extracted. There's quite a lot of content in there. Let's open it and see what we have. And you'll notice that I've got image files. I've also got an audio file. It's a WAV file in this particular example. I also have an MP3 file. And I even have a video file. I've got a MP4 or an MPEG movie file. So we've got quite a lot of different content there. I'm going to change my view just a little bit so that I can see things a little bit easier. So I'm going to change this to large icons. And now we can see very easily on my screen all of the different content types that we have. Again, we have audio files, we have graphic files, we have video files. All of these are our local files, or files stored locally on our computer. So anything that we're going to need today is going to be in that KCTCS1 folder. Now you should also notice that there's a Word document in there called Start Here. Well, let's just point to that and then double click on it. When we do that, that's going to start the Microsoft Word program, because we know that's the way Windows works. When we double click on a file, it's going to open whatever program was used to create or read that particular file. We may get this little message saying this is a protected view. Microsoft likes to make sure that we're not going to do things that could be bad for us or for our computers. So they bring in this little protection symbol. What we want to do is just enable the editing. And we now see this Microsoft Word document. And you'll notice that it's a 6-page Word document about Andrew Jackson. Now, we're going to be creating a lesson, a very simple little history lesson based on this document. And you'll notice, first of all, that there's some URLs there. We'll work with those in another class. But for this class, what I'd like you to notice is that Andrew Jackson is boldface. I see 7th President is both bold and italic. I also notice if we click right on the word introduction, it's a styled paragraph. And it's a styled paragraph. It's a styled paragraph of heading 1. We also notice that we have other paragraphs that are heading 1, heading 2 that are styled also. All right, so we now see all of our content that we're going to be using. We even have a graphic. Now remember, we got this file, and I'm just going to minimize it for now, by taking our KCTCS zip package, right mouse clicking on it, extracting it, changing the location of that file to our desktop, and then telling it to extract. And then we opened up that package. Okay, now what I would like you to do with this Word document, and I have my Word document currently, I want to select it all. So I'm going to go to my Select button from my editing tools on my home ribbon, and I'll choose Select, and I want to select all. So I've now got that entire document, that entire 6-page Word document selected. With it selected, I'm now coming over on the left-hand side of my home ribbon, and I'm going to click on the Copy tool. So we've now taken all of that content and we have copied it to our clipboard. We're going to be using that content in just a little bit. Now, the next thing I'd like to do, well, I'm just going to minimize this program window, the Microsoft Word window, and I'm back to my desktop. We should have the newest version of the SoftChalk program already installed. If you do not, then you're a little bit behind. You want to make sure that you get the newest version installed later. You may see SoftChalk 7 installed, and for today's class, it's not going to work any differently between the two different versions. But in upcoming classes, we do want to make sure that we do have the newest version of the SoftChalk Create program. Well, whichever version you now have on your desktop, whether it be SoftChalk 7 or SoftChalk Create, then just point to that icon and double click. Now, if for some reason you have deleted these two shortcuts, you can also start the program by going to the Start menu button, selecting All Programs from the Start menu, and then just scroll down until you see SoftChalk Create 8. There's our folder. We select that folder, and then we can start the Create program. Okay, well, that's nice. Now, I'm just going to point on my desktop, double click, and that's going to start the SoftChalk Create program. Now, an interesting thing, every time the SoftChalk Create program starts, it's going to check on the internet to see if there is a new version. And if there is a new version, then it's going to ask you if you would like to download the newest release. Once you do, and in this case, if you do get that question, let's say, no, I don't want to for right now, because it's just going to slow us down too much for today. Now, it always starts with this little splash screen that's going to give you information about new releases or new developments within the SoftChalk family of programs. If you would like to, you'll notice that you can actually say, don't notify me anymore, just remove that check, and then just click on Close. I'm going to keep it there, so I'll leave the check. It may also ask you, well, you know what, we're going to help you out getting started. And if you'd like to watch a video tutorial, you can actually do that. And again, you can say, well, remind me next time. So you just leave the check and click on close. Or if you say, well, I've already seen how to get started, so I can remove that check and then close. Now that's going to then open the SoftChalk Create program window, where we now notice some things about that particular window. The first thing that we're going to notice is it does not occupy the entire screen. We also notice some other things about it, and that would be it looks an awful lot like a word processor. As a matter of fact, if you would like to, one method that you can use to create content is you could type. So if you wanted to, you can start typing right now to create your content. Okay. Now, because it's a word processor, it works very similar to a word processor. For example, notice the little phrase that I've entered is on the left-hand side of the screen. And it's on that left-hand side because as a default, my text is left aligned. I could also change that paragraph formatting and center it by clicking on my Center Align button. Or I could put it on the right-hand side of the screen by clicking on the Right Align button. I could put it back on the left-hand side also by clicking on the Left Align button. We also have the ability to bullet paragraphs and also number paragraphs. If we wanted to bullet a paragraph, we just have our cursor in the paragraph and then click on the bullet button. I can remove those bullets by once again clicking on the bullet button. And we can even number our paragraphs. I'll click on the number, the 1, 2, 3 button, and I'll click on it again to remove the numbering. So we can change the formatting of paragraphs and our text in the same methods that you're used to doing with a word processor. All right, well, that's pretty nice. Now, I will actually want to get rid of all of that text that I've entered. And to delete content that you've already typed, you can use the backspace key and it removes characters to the left of the cursor. You can also press the delete key. It deletes characters to the right of the cursor. Or if you have a whole bunch of stuff that you want to get rid of, just select it all and press either delete or backspace. It doesn't really matter which. So again, it works just like a word processor as you start typing. That's what we can do to one method to create our content. Now, our second method, we're going to be using what we already have created from that Word document. So we still have all of that stuff stored on our clipboard. I'm inside of my SoftChalk Create program, and I'm now ready to choose Edit from the menu bar. And from the Edit menu, I'm going to select Paste. Now notice to the right of the Paste menu, you see the keyboard shortcut. So if you're using a Macintosh, then you know that you could use a command and then V to paste, or if you're using a Windows machine, Control V to paste. In any case, once you paste, watch the center portion of the screen and it says Converting Document. Now that converted that particular Word document into a SoftChalk lesson. Okay, well that's nice to see. And you'll notice that it remembers most of the formatting. Well, it also remembered the graphic that was there. Then we see Andrew Jackson is still boldface and is boldface. Seventh President is bold and italic. And if I click on the word introduction right at the top of that screen, we should notice that on the far right-hand side of our toolbar, we see that it's a styled paragraph of heading 1, just like it was in Word. Now, what I want to do, I want to actually maximize this particular window. So I'm going to point to my maximize tool on my title bar. Again, if it's a PC, I know it's the middle button or the square. If it's a Macintosh, it's still the middle button to maximize. I think it's the green button there. So we would click on that maximize tool just to give us a larger view. And that's our lesson so far. We've copied from Word and we've pasted into the SoftChalk Create program. Now let's save this so that we can work with it later. All right, well, or so that in case anything happened, we can pick up where we left off also. So I'm just going to go to my Save tool that's on the toolbar, and then I'll click. All right, now once I have that tool, or it then gives me the Save dialog window. And I'm ready to give this a name. Now, what I would like you to do is I would like you to store this lesson that we're creating in our KCTCS1 folder. Remember, we put that on the desktop, and it makes it really easy to find now by clicking on the My Documents line and then choosing Desktop. Obviously, if I'm using a Macintosh, I just click on the desktop and it makes it easy to find also. We're then going to look for the KCTCS1 folder. I found it. I'll click on it and open that. And now I'm ready to give this a file name. Our file name can be pretty much whatever we'd like it to be, except this is our rule. And our rule says you may not use spaces when you are saving your lesson. So I'm going to call this Andrew Jackson. And I've typed in 2 words without putting spaces in between them, but I've capitalized the beginning of each new word. That's to make it look like 2 separate words. Some people put underlines or underscores in between the 2 words. Some people do dashes. You can really do whatever you would like as long as you don't put in a space. Now, notice that it is saving this as just straight or pure HTML. Great. I'm going to click on Save. And it's now, notice at the top of my screen, saved my lesson as Andrew Jackson. Okay. Now, that's nice. Now I'd like to see what it's going to look like to my students. So I'm going to go to my Preview in the Browser tool. And that's that tool that looks like a globe with a magnifying glass going on top of it. And we'll then click. This then starts your browser window. Whatever you have set for a default browser on your computer, it then opens and displays the lesson. Now, I do have a question for you. Is anyone using Microsoft Internet Explorer as your default browser? And if you are, just click on the Raise Hand button. Okay, I see a few people are. Now, that means we're going to need to do something, and I'll just put down your hands. We're going to need to do something with Internet Explorer to make it work nicely with the results of what we're creating in the SoftChalk Create program. So I'm going to open up my own version of the Internet Explorer. I am using, I guess this is version 9. What I would like you to do is go to your Tools button, and if you have the menu display, just choose Tools from the menu bar, and then click on that Tools menu. It then displays a series of commands or menu items. I'd like you to select Internet Options. Now that I have my Internet Options dialog window appearing, I'm going to click on the Advanced tab. We then want to scroll down just a little until, actually quite a lot, until we see Security. And what we then want to look for is that second line. And I've already highlighted it here. It says allow active content to run in files on my computer. You want to make sure that there's a selection or checkbox there, because you're creating content that you're storing locally on your computer. When Internet Explorer tries to display it, it's going to have a problem with it because it's not coming from the internet. And so by choosing this box, this is going to save us from having to say, yes, it's okay to allow active content to run for this particular website. So we're just going to allow that to run on files on my computer. Then we can click on Apply, which makes it work in this particular version, and then we click on OK, and that closes that dialog window. So we're now looking at our document, and we do notice that it did retain the graphics that were there from Word. Now, some instances it doesn't, or it may make that graphic not display, and that's just there's a little problem with Word periodically and copying. It just doesn't do everything that it's supposed to. If it doesn't have the graphic, that's not a real big problem for us. But we do notice that all of our content is there. If I go all the way to the bottom, I see even some equations that came from Microsoft Word, and those came in then also as graphic items. What we're going to do today also is find how we can take an equation that we've created in Microsoft Word, and we're going to then place that as an editable equation in the SoftChalk Create program. All right, well, we've got all of our content. I see that. I see what it looks like. I'm not really impressed, though. Oh, darn, because all it is black text on a white background. All right, well, you know, even if that's all that I did, is that better than taking my Word document and just uploading the entire Word document into Blackboard? How many people think it is? Just click on your raise hand button to give me an idea of how many people think that's better. And right now I have a couple people who think it's better. Now, for those of you who are saying, well, I don't know if it is or not, let me explain why it is. When I put a Word document in Blackboard, my students are going to have Microsoft Word or something similar to that to be able to read and view that document, which I guess would be okay if they're using a standard computer. But if they're using a mobile device, that creates even another problem, because most mobile devices do not have Microsoft Word or a Word viewer installed. So, boy, that's a problem for them. I'm restricting my students. They now have to buy extra programs to be able to view my content when I take Word documents and put them into Blackboard. All right, well, what we've just done is made it HTML. Every computer you buy comes with a browser window. The only thing that's necessary now for my students to view this is a browser, and they have that. Even on their smartphones, there's a browser window. So it is much better now for the students. Now we're going to make it much, much better very quickly. I'd like you to close your browser window. And once your browser window is closed, you should be looking back at the SoftChalk Create program window. Now, I know this is going to happen to at least one person, so let's go to our title bar, and let's click on the X to close the SoftChalk Create program. So we're back to our desktop. Okay, because I know it's going to happen. Somebody is going to inadvertently close the SoftChalk Create program. Well, how do we pick up where we left off? Well, once again, let's start the SoftChalk Create program, whether it be version 7 or 8, it won't matter. Once the program opens again, and if you told it not to notify me, then you won't be seeing any of the messages. Let's maximize our window. Incidentally, if you point to anywhere on the title bar, any of the blank area on the title bar, and double click, that also maximizes the window. Then let's choose File from the menu bar and select Open Recent. And you'll see the most recent lesson, which is Andrew Jackson. Now let's select that, and we're now ready to start editing our lesson once again. So to edit a lesson that we've already saved, all we have to do is File and then Open Recent. It's very quick and very easy. Now, you may notice that there's a blank line right at the top of the screen. Just press the Delete key to make that blank line go away. You may need to press it twice. If you're using a Macintosh, click on to the left of the word Introduction and press Delete and make that blank line go away. Now that's a heading styled paragraph. Early Life is a heading 1 style paragraph. Old Hickory is a heading 2 style. Now what we're going to do, and this is a very important part of using the SoftChalk Create program, is to then apply a style to your lesson. Not just to paragraphs, but to the lesson itself. If we look at the bottom center of our screen, we'll notice that our lesson currently is not styled. Now, okay, to apply a style, all we have to do is choose Properties from the menu bar, and from the Properties menu, select Style Properties. This is going to display the Style Properties dialog window, where you'll notice that currently you have your lesson and it's not styled. We also may notice, and if you see my screen, you should notice that there's a Personal Styles. Personal styles are lesson styles that you create using the SoftChalk Style Builder program that we'll be using later on. Not today, but later on in our classes. You may also notice that I have custom styles. Custom styles are styles that are designed for your schools specifically, and they're created by the SoftChalk graphic design team. Then we have banner styles. Now there are over 120 different banner styles that you can choose from. I'm just going to pick the very first one that's here. Now when I do that, notice it's going to show me that I now have a purple themed lesson. I'm going to let it be that. I'll then just click OK. And when I do that, you should now notice that all of those paragraphs that were styled using either a heading 1, a heading 2, or even a heading 3 have changed colors and they're now purple. And if we look at the bottom center of our screen again, we should notice that we are using the Bubbles banner as our current style for our lesson. Now, Let's see what that means when we preview the lesson again. So I'm going to go to my preview in the browser button again. That's my magnifying glass on the globe. And I'm going to click. I'm going to save the changes that I've made. And in a few seconds, we're going to see what this lesson looks like to our students. And it's going to look a lot different than it originally did. So I'm now using my default browser once again, and this is still Firefox is what I'm choosing. And notice on the right-hand side of the screen, I now see the on the page sidebar, where I see all of the topics, heading styled paragraphs that are part of this particular lesson. If I then point and I click, let's say on Fourier series, it's going to navigate to that particular section of my lesson. So I have now added that navigation simply by applying a style to my lesson. Now let's see some other things that we now notice have happened because we applied a style to the lesson. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll also notice that you have now created mobile pages. So if your students access your content using a mobile device, whether it be an Android tablet or a smartphone or an iPhone, it's then going to display correctly formatted for that device. So in addition to creating content just for a standard computer, you have also created content for a mobile device. Pretty cool. Notice also at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, we see a return to top. So we've also built in more navigation to our lesson. Pretty cool. I'm going to close this browser again. And then I'm back into the SoftChalk Create program. Now, what I would like you to do next, we're going to try to find some things here. We're going to try to find Rachel Jackson. Our cursor should be still at the beginning of our lesson, right on the word introduction. Choose Edit from the menu bar, and from the Edit menu, select Find. Now let's type in Rachel Jackson. Once you've typed that, then let's make it find the next occurrence. Now notice the options. You can make it search for only whole words. You can also say, well, make sure that you match my case when you are typing. Make sure it does match the case that I have entered. Or you can just say, well, I don't really care too much about case. Just show it to me regardless of the case that I've selected. And then we see the direction that it's going to be searching. I want to search down. Click on Find Next, and it then found Rachel Jackson. Now let's close that dialog window. So again, we notice that we've got basic word processing capabilities. We could also have used a find and replace if I would like. Now I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and I'm going to look for the word scandal. Okay, now that's underneath the marriage and divorce section. That marriage and divorce, just like occupation and education, those are part of our navigation. I'm going to describe those as a navigation point. Now, how do I create additional navigation points in a lesson? Well, let's see. I'd like you to click at the end of the paragraph that's immediately above Scandal Aside. Place your cursor there, then press Enter. Now let's give a title to this next paragraph. Let's just call it Scandal. Now how do I make a navigation point in SoftChalk Create that didn't come from a heading style in Word. Well, all I have to now do with the cursor right where it is go to my Style tool on my toolbar that currently shows me plain text, click on that line, and choose a heading style, a heading 1, 2, or 3. Now, in this case, I'm going to choose heading 3. And you may wonder why choose heading 3. Well, if I scroll up a little bit and get to the top part of this section, I see family is way up above all of the rest of the content there. If I click on family, that's a heading 1. So that's the main topic of this area. Andrew Jackson's children is a heading 2. That's a subtopic of family. Rachel Jackson is also a heading 2 style, another subtopic of family. Now this education, occupation, marriage and divorce, and scandal are all subtopics of Rachel Jackson. So they would be heading 3 styles. Now, is that all I have to do to create a navigation point? Yes. When can I create a navigation point? Anytime I want. I don't have to wait until or do all of my navigation points at the beginning of my lesson. I also don't have to put them all in at the end. Anytime I feel, well, I need to do this, then I should. Now, what is that done? Well, let's go to our preview in the browser tool again, magnifying glass on the globe, and click. Yes, we are going to save our changes. Once our browsers come back, notice on the right-hand side of the screen, on this page sidebar, we now notice that Scandal appears. And if we point to Scandal and we click, it allows us to navigate, or it takes us to that particular section of our lesson. Well, that was pretty easy. I'm going to close my browser. So it's very easy to add a navigation point to your lesson. Now, how about adding more navigation? I want to include a table of contents. All right, to include a table of contents, we use our menu bar. We're going to choose Properties from the menu bar. And from that Properties menu, we're going to select Style Properties. We've done that once before. That's where we got to choose the look for our lesson. What I want to select now is this Title and Layout tab. I'm going to click on that, and I notice the left-hand side of the screen allows me to title my lesson. So let's put in a title. I'm going to call this Andrew Jackson. Okay. So I've now typed in a title for my lesson. Great. Let's see what else we can do on that left-hand side. We can decide what we want to have appear at the bottom of our screen as our footer. Do we want to copyright our content? If we leave the check there, then it says, yes, I do. Do we want to display the day we last modified our lesson? Yeah, I like to do that also, just so I know how current my lessons are. And so my students actually get to see how current my lessons are. It's kind of a nice thing. Next is a licensing option. If we leave it unspecified as it is currently, then it means it is copyrighted and people cannot use it unless they ask us permission. Now, if we would like to make our lessons part of Creative Commons, then we can change that licensing option. If you click on the word specify or unspecified, it shows you all of the Creative Commons licensing options. Creative Commons, for those of us who aren't sure, is a nationwide effort to allow people to share content without having to ask or give permission. And if we make something part of Creative Commons, then it means people who find that content can use it without asking permission. Really a handy idea. That's what appears when we choose any of these attributions. Now you'll notice there are several different Creative Commons licensing. The attribution means that people can use it, they can modify it, they can do whatever they would like to with that document or with our lesson, because it's basically theirs to do with as they will. Now, the next one that says attribution share alike, this one says, if you take my lesson and you make changes to it, then you need to share what changes you've made. So you need to make that part of Creative Commons. The attribution no derivatives says you can use my content, but you got to use it the way it is. You cannot make any changes. Then we have the same options, only it's not commercial, so people cannot use it and try to make a profit from it. Those are the Creative Commons attributions. I like the share alike option whenever I put something in my Creative Commons area. Then we have our right-hand side of the screen where we see, all right, this allows me to add more navigation. I'm going to add a table of contents. So I'm going to click on that checkbox that says Table of Contents page. Oh, okay. Let's also put in a drop-down menu at the top of the page. And while we're here, let's bring in arrows. So I've got all of my navigation features turned on and 2 out of the 3 of my table of contents features. Well, as a matter of fact, let's put in all 3. So I've now added all of the navigation features that are available in the SoftChalk Create program. Let's now click OK. And I don't notice any changes at all. Well, that's because we have to preview the lesson to be able to see what we have done when we change the look of our lesson. So once again, let's go to our preview in the browser tool. I'll save my changes once more, so I'll do a yes here. And in a few seconds, once my browser window reappears, then I'm going to notice I now have a table of contents page that has the title of my lesson, Andrew Jackson, on that title bar. If I look way down at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see that Creative Commons licensing. As a matter of fact, if you clicked on that, it's going to tell you what that Creative Commons licensing means. Oh, okay. That's what it shows. I'm going to close that browser tab, and I'm back into my lesson. And I see now my lesson really does look like a topical outline, where I see, again, I'm going to look at the family section. Family is a main topic. Notice how it's furthest to the left. Then as we start indenting, we have subtopics and subtopics for education, occupation, scandal, marriage, and divorce. And once again, if I point and click on any of those sections, it's going to take me directly there. Well, I want to go to the top of my page, so I'm just going to click on page 1. And I've got a couple of questions now. My question would be, first of all, where are the page numbers? Because didn't we tell it to display page numbers? And we did. Now, the reason it doesn't is how many pages are in this lesson? Well, there's just one. And whenever there's only just one page, then our program does not display page numbers. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Also, where are the arrows that we told it to display? Because we selected arrows, but I don't see them. And why don't I? Well, arrows are generally used to move from one page to another. And since we do not have more than one page, then it's not going to display the arrows. Oh, okay. What about that drop-down menu at the top of the screen? Well, that's kind of like a miniature table of contents. But if there's not more than one page, then it will not display that menu item either. So our menus are can be used whenever we want to. However, if there's only a single page, we're restricting what we're allowing to have displayed. Now I'm going to close my browser again, and I want to now create a multiple page lesson. Now let's go back up to the beginning of your lesson. Those of you using a PC, hold down on the Control key, CTRL, and press Home. And that takes us to the beginning of our lesson, just like it does in Microsoft Word. Now what I'd like you to do is to look for early life, that topic. And I'd like you to click then at the end of the paragraph immediately above early life. Should be right after common man. This is where I want my first page to end. To create a page break, we place our cursor where we want the page to end. Then we choose Insert from the menu bar, and from that Insert menu, we select Page Break. Now there are two things you could do with a page break, either add one or remove one. We want to add it, so I'll choose Insert. And we now have, look at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, a two-page lesson. Next, let's place our cursor at the end of the paragraph immediately above war. Once the cursor is there, let's insert a page break once again. We now have a three-page lesson. We're going to put in a couple more page breaks. Let's click immediately above Jacksonian democracy, and let's add another page break. This time, let's try a Control-Enter to create a page break. Let's try the keyboard shortcut. So I'll do a Control-Enter. If you're using a Macintosh, I guess that would be Control-Enter, or Command-Enter, or Command-Return to create a page break. And we now have a four-page lesson. Next, let's place our cursor immediately above, at the end of the paragraph above, demolishing the Bank of the United States. And again, let's do a Control-Enter. Now, I know some people don't really like keyboard shortcuts, so this time let's use a different method to add a page break. Let's click on the blank line that's right up above Family. And now let's point to where the cursor is and right mouse click. From that pop-up menu, choose Page Break. We now have a six-page lesson. So if you're used to using keyboard shortcuts, SoftChalk Create, for the most part, allows you to use those same keyboard shortcuts. If you like to right mouse click, SoftChalk Create allows you to right mouse click also. Now I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to look for equations. I'm going to click on the blank line immediately above the word equations, and once again I'm going to point to that blank line. I'm going to right mouse click and choose Page Break. And we now have a 7-page lesson. Let's see what it's going to look like. So we're going to preview this in the browser. We'll save our changes. And in just a couple of seconds, we're then going to notice our table of contents now shows us page 1, page 2, page 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we now see all of our topics, or all of our topics that are in our lesson. And we see our page numbers also. Okay. Now let's choose a particular page number. Let's go to page number 6. So I'll point to page 6 and click. And now notice at the top of the screen, we see previous and next. Those are our arrows that allow us to navigate from one page to the next. We also see all of our page numbers, 1 through 7. On the left-hand side of our navigation bar, there at the top of the screen, we see our rollover drop-down menu. Rollover contents, and we see all of the page numbers. As we roll over a specific page, like page 5, I can see all of the topics on that page. If I click on tariffs, then I navigate to that particular area. Now let's look at the right-hand side of the screen. I see the on-the-page sidebar showing me all of the topics on this particular page. Okay, that's pretty nice. I also notice that I have contents appear. That contents is our drop-down menu on the right-hand side of the screen. And it works the same as that drop-down menu that we have on our navigation bar. If I roll over it, I see all of the page numbers. If I roll over a page number, for example, page 6, and I then select marriage and divorce, then it will allow me to navigate to that particular section. Wow. That's pretty neat. That's our navigation so far. Now, let's close our browser. Let's add more navigation to our lesson. Well, actually, we've done all the navigation that we can possibly do, but let's change the way our navigation appears. Let's go to Properties from the menu bar and select Page Names. Page names allow me to name each of my pages. All right, well, for our first page, in the table of contents name, let's type in Andrew Jackson Introduction, Introduction. And then for a short menu name, I'm just going to type in Intro. Those of you who are using the old version of our program, SoftChalk version 7, do not have the menu name feature. Let's go to our second page. The second page is where we start talking about the early life of Andrew Jackson. So I'm going to type in Andrew Jackson, early life. And then in my menu name, I'm just going to type in, well, I'm going to leave that blank because I want to see what it's going to look like. Let's go to our third page name, and let's type in Andrew Jackson and Democracy. And in my page name, the menu name, I'm going to type in Politics. All right, so we can name items that appear in the table of contents, and we can also name a short menu name item. Now, that's all I'm going to do for right now. I'm going to click OK, and let's now see what we've done. So I'm going to preview this once again, and I'm going to save this lesson. In a couple of seconds, it will then show us our lesson the way the students view it in our default browser. And here's where we see our page names, where we entered them. And where we didn't, we see then page 4, 5, 6, and 7. Let's click on our first page name, Andrew Jackson Introduction, and that takes us into our lesson. Look at the navigation bar. All of those pages that we put in a menu name now show us text, intro, and politics. The ones that didn't then show us the numbers. If we roll over our table of contents quick menu, then we see page names where we entered them and numbers where we didn't. Those are some of the navigation features that we have within the SoftChalk Create program. Okay, now that's pretty nice. Let's close our browser again. And for right now, let's go to File from the menu bar. Select Open Recent, and I'd like you to clear the most recent files. So click on that Clear Recent. Then close the SoftChalk Create program. So we're back to our desktop. Now remember, we stored this inside of this KCTCS1 folder. I'm going to open that folder. And what I notice is inside of that folder is my Andrew Jackson lesson. It's a folder. So we didn't just create a single page. We've actually created a whole folder full of materials. Now that means if you work on several different computers, let's suppose you have a computer at work and then you want to take this lesson and work on it at home, you would need to take this folder and put it on some kind of a mobile device or a storage device, like a flash drive or a zip drive, and then what you would need to do is take it off that device and put it onto your other computer. Now let's open up this folder, this Andrew Jackson folder. So I've just double-clicked on it. The very first thing that we see, or very first items we see, are our mobile pages. So we have created mobile pages. Again, they're in the background while you're creating your normal content. Great. We also notice some other things that it's created, and that is ADA access. That's for Americans with Disability Act. So as you are creating standard content, you are also creating content that can be read by screen readers and is accessible by our disabled students. We also notice that we've got a lot of HTML things here. We've got Andrew Jackson, that's the name of our lesson. Then we have Andrew Jackson 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for each one of the pages that we've created. Now I do want you to notice the symbol that's being used, and I'm going to change my display and make it once again display in large icons. And notice the symbol that's being used for that Andrew Jackson HTML. This is a browser symbol. So it means that if I double clicked on that, it's not going to open up the lesson so that I can edit it. It's going to open up the lesson in a browser. Oh. Okay, how do I start editing that lesson? Well, very simply, I'm just going to close my browser window again, and I'm back to my desktop. Let's open up the SoftChalk Create program again, and I'll double-click on that. While it's opening the lesson, again, I'm just going to close my splash screens. I'm then going to maximize my window. I like maximizing it just because I think it gives me the best view. And now how do I get back to where I was? Well, what we now want to do is go to File from the menu bar, and I can't choose Open Recent because it's not in that list. So what I need to do is select Open from that File menu. So I'll just choose Open. Now what I have to do is navigate to where I stored the lesson. Now remember, we put it on our desktop inside of the folder called KCTCS, and then we have another folder, Andrew Jackson. My suggestion for you is that you need to be consistent with where you are placing your lesson. I would suggest that you place them inside of the My Documents folder and create another folder within that called My Lessons and put them inside of that My Lessons folder. Now, we stored it on our desktop inside of this folder to make it very easy to find. Now, let's open that Andrew Jackson folder. And now the question is, which of those HTML files do we use to start editing this lesson? Well, it's real simple. I don't care which one you choose. Pick any of the HTML files. Any one, and then open. Rather than making you or forcing you to select a particular file, we let you pick any one of them. And now we see our content. We're ready to start editing. Now let's deal with objects. We've got a graphic item right now, this Andrew Jackson image. Okay. Now, some people, I found out, don't really have that Andrew Jackson image. Well, that's great, because if some people don't, then I don't think any of us should. So let's click on Andrew Jackson and press delete. Okay, great. Now, what I'd like to do is I want to put in an image right at this location. My image is of Andrew Jackson. Well, you know what? I didn't send you the Andrew Jackson image. It's nowhere there. As you can see, the list of all of the content of that KCTCS1 folder. So what we're going to do to find or to bring in the Andrew Jackson image is I would like you to choose Tools from the menu bar. First of all, I've clicked right at the beginning or right in front of Andrew Jackson. Then I'm going to choose Tools from the menu bar, and from the Tools menu I'm going to select Media Search. The Media Search dialog window then appears. Now what we want to do is, well, notice the maximum number of results. It's currently set at 25. That can be up to 50, 75, or 100. I'll just let it at 25. Now, I'd like you to choose a repository to find an image. Now, that most likely is Flickr. So click on the checkbox to the left of Flickr. Now, since this is the first time you've clicked on Flickr, or it may be, then you're going to get this kind of dialog window that says Repository License. And it means it's going to allow you to search the Flickr website, but you have to use the rules and rights of the Flickr website. And you have to agree to that for it to allow you to search. So then once you click on I agree, we're now ready to click on our keywords line and we're ready to search. And here's where I'm going to restrict Flickr. To the right of the word Flickr, we see a little button, and that's our Configure button. Click on that, and then at the bottom of that dialog window, click on the select box that says only look for content that's part of Creative Commons. Then click OK. Now let's click on our keywords line and type in Andrew Jackson and tell it to search. Click on the search button. It's now going out to the Flickr website and it is finding all of the images of Andrew Jackson. Pretty cool. Once it finds them, then we're going to see these out here on the right-hand side of our screen. Now I'm going to use this presidential portrait that I see right at the top. I'm going to click on that line. Notice it selects it, and then I'm going to insert it. So I'll click on Insert, and you'll see that it's there. Okay. Then I'll click OK. I'll then click on Close, and there's my image. Now my image came in SoftChalk Create the same way it comes in from Word. It's an inline graphic. I would like text to wrap around that graphic. So I'm going to point to it, point to the image, and I'm then going to right mouse click on it. I'm going to modify this SoftChalk Create content. We modify any SoftChalk Create icon or item by right mouse clicking on it and then choose Modify. First, I want text to wrap around the image. So I'm going to change my alignment. I'm going to change it from none. I'm going to make it left. I don't think I need to draw a border around the image because it's framed automatically because that's part of the image itself. But I am going to increase the amount of space above and below the object. That is our V space. I'm going to make that 5. I'm also going to change the amount of space that I'm leaving to the left and right hand sides of this object. That's our H space. I'm going to let that be 10. I'm also going to change the width and the height. Rather than 500 by 452, which is, as you see, pretty big, let's change our height. So I'm going to select the 500, and I'm going to type in 250. You'll notice that as you change the height, the width changed at the same time. Then I'll click OK. And we now have taken our image or found an image from the Flickr website and made it part of our lesson, and we even have our text wrapping around that particular image. Okay, that's adding an image from the web. Now, what about adding an image, let's say, adding an image that we have stored locally? Well, let's try that. I'd like you to click, let's click right in front of or right after the word war. Now, in this particular example, we're going to be adding an image, and I do not want any text to wrap around it. Whenever we want an image to be standalone, we should start on a blank line. So I've clicked right after the word war. I'm going to press Enter to create a blank line. Now let's add our image. I'm going to choose Insert from the menu bar. From the Insert menu, I'm going to select Image. This will give us our Insert Image dialog window, where we now want to click on the Select Image button. We want to navigate to our desktop, look inside of the KCTCS1 folder. So I'll select that and then open it. I could also double click on it. And let's bring in the Battle of New Orleans image. So I'll select that JPEG image. Notice the type of images that you can add into your SoftChalk created lessons. You can use a GIF file. That stands for Graphic Interchange Format. A JPEG, Joint Professional Graphics, or the extended version of it, JPEG. Also a portable network graphic, PNG, and even a bitmapped image. Now there's first 4 are what people describe as web-friendly images. Bitmapped images, our program is actually going to convert that into a JPEG for you. Notice when we select the image, it shows us the dimensions. Click on Select. And it now says, wait, this image is not recommended. It is a little too large to make it fit nicely on most screens. We have dimension values of 800 by 600 kind of as a guideline for our maximum image size. If it's larger than that, then you get that red dot that says, wait, I don't recommend it. Now you can still use it if you would like, but remember what your students are probably going to have to do is they're going to have to scroll to be able to see the remaining sections of the image. Now what we've also done to make your life much easier is to point to this Optimize Image button. It's now active. Click on that. And what it will do is it will go into a copy of that image and reduce its dimensions. So now it's within our 800 by 533 dimension value, and it also reduced its size, its weight. Okay, I don't want any alignment, so I'm going to let the alignment be none. I'm going to change the vertical spacing. I'm going to set it back to 0. And I'm also going to change the horizontal spacing. I'm going to set that back to 0. Now let's make this image accessible to our visually disabled students. We allow you to have two different methods to make it accessible. First, the alternative text line. Some people call that the alt tag line. And what we've got here, what I like to put in here is just a title. So I'm going to call this the Battle of New Orleans. Okay, now that I've done that, and I've put in a title for my image, what I can also do is I also have the ability to put in a long description. Now this long description is only going to be read by a screen reader. When I put in this alternative text and a title, then it can be viewed by anyone basically. If my students are using Internet Explorer as their default browser, as they roll over the image, then it's going to display whatever is inside of that alt text line. The long description is restricted, and it would only be viewed or viewable by a screen reader. So I'm going to click on the long description line, and I'm then going to type in, this is a description of the image. It will be read only by a screen reader. How much text can you put in that box? As much as you would like. So, you would make this a very descriptive, very wordy description of the image. Okay. Now what I'm ready to do is I'm going to click on OK. And I now see my image placed inside of my lesson. Now what I'd like to do is to take this image and I'd like to center it horizontally on my screen. So I'm going to click on the image. When I click on the image, notice how it selects the image. Let's now go to our alignment tool and click on the Align Center. That took my image and it centered it in or on my horizontally on my screen. All right, well, we've now added an image First image we added came from the web, and we wanted text around it. Next image we added, it came from our local machine, and we decided we wanted it to be standalone. So we have the options of how we want this to be displayed. Now let's also add an audio file. Let's click right after early life, that title. Then I'm going to press enter to create a blank line. I'm ready to choose Insert from my menu bar, and I'm going to select Media. This displays my Insert Media dialog window. Now that I see that, I want to choose Audio as my selection. I'll then click on the Select File button. Let's choose, or we need to actually navigate back to our desktop. So I'm going to tell it to look in the desktop. I'll then go into the KCTCS1 folder and open it. And we've got two choices for our media file: the Hans1 WAV file and the star MP3 file. If you look at the bottom of this dialog window, notice all of the different types of media files you can actually place in your lesson. Now let's choose, for this example, just the Hans1 WAV file. I'll click on it and select. And now I have a choice. How do I want it to appear to my students? Well, I'm going to let it be linked. I'll then click OK. And I've now created a linked audio file. Now, this linked audio file might need some instructions for our students. So I'm going to tell them to click here, or click on the speaker to listen to the audio. I'm then going to click right after the word man in that paragraph below the speaker and press enter to create another blank line. And I'm going to bring in another audio file. I'm going to once again insert media. I'll still have audio selected, and I'll click on the select file. Let's bring in the star MP3 file. Click on it, select, and this time let's make it an inline player. Now when I make it an inline player, it activates this dialog window toward the bottom of the screen. This is where you can type in a script of what is being spoken. So I'm just going to type in, here is where the script of the audio file can be entered. Now, why would I want to do this? Well, this will make the audio accessible for the hearing disabled students. Okay, so I would type in a script of what is actually being read to my audio or to my students. So I want to make sure that it's going to be word for word what is actually being read. I then click OK, and what we see is an inline audio placeholder. Now, let's see what this is going to look like. So I'm going, and I put these on the second page. I'm going to navigate directly there. Now, I'm going to tell you that when I use the GoToWebinar software program to display my screen, it blocks out this picture that you're going to see. So I'm going to preview it. I'll save my changes. In a couple of seconds, once my browser window reappears, I'll then navigate to my second page. That's my Andrew Jackson Early Life. And we see the speaker appear. And what we're asked to do, notice it's taking a while for this page to load. And that's because that audio file has to download before it's going to start playing. Now, if we clicked on the speaker, then it's going to open up another tab. And once that tab opens, you're then able to hear that audio file. Now, because of the audio or because of my GoToWebinar software, it blocks that from being displayed. All right, so I'll just close that. But notice on your screens, you see the audio play bar where you can stop it, pause it, rewind it, fast forward, whatever you would like to do with it. We also notice down below, underneath the his duels killed a man, we see our audio play bar again, where you can click on the play button and listen to that audio file. Also notice the accessibility icon. That's our key. Excuse me. That's our keyhole symbol, and what it actually is accessibility. When a student clicks on that, then they're going to be able to read the script of what is being spoken. And then they can, in a separate window, they close that and they're back into the lesson. So those are the two ways we can add audio files into our lessons. Now I'm going to close my browser window. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit because next I want to add a video file. Now I'm going to start doing the same thing we had previously done. Let's look at demolishing the Bank of the United States. And right underneath that, let's just select that video, the Money Masters, Second Bank of the United States. Just select all of that text and press delete to make it go away. We're now going to place a video right at this location. Now this video that we're going to be adding is going to be coming from the internet. So I'm once again going to use our Tools menu item, and I'm going to select my Media Search tool once again. We last looked at this and we told it to search Flickr. Notice it remembered my last search. Now I'm going to get rid of Flickr, and I'm going to scroll down this list and I'm going to look for YouTube. I want it to look for Andrew Jackson again. Keyword is Andrew Jackson. You'll notice if I try to configure to YouTube, there really isn't any configuration available. That's just part of YouTube. All right, well, I've typed in Andrew Jackson as my keywords. Actually, it remembered it from my last search. And I've selected the YouTube repository. I've removed Flickr from my checkbox. I'm going to click on Search. Now, this went out to the YouTube repository, and it found videos dealing with Andrew Jackson. Great. What I want to choose is this Andrew Jackson Kills the Bank. I'm going to select that and insert it. This allows me to take that lesson or that particular video and put it into my lesson, but not as the video itself. What this has done is it's put in a placeholder called a widget that accesses that video that lives in YouTube without sending my students to the YouTube website. Well, let's see what that does. Let's click on OK and close. And now let's look at this video. So I'm going to preview this again. I'll go to the view in the browser. I'll save my changes, and we want to navigate to our 5th page. So once my browser window reappears, I'm then ready to navigate to page 5, that's Demolishing the Bank of the United States. Now I want you to notice when you click on this how kind of fast that page loaded. And now we see the lesson, or we see the video. Now if you click on the play button here, you'll notice that there is a gray bar and also a red bar being formed. That gray bar is the download progress of the video. Notice how it's also playing as it downloads. And that's because this particular video is streamed. Really handy. It means it doesn't have to completely download before it starts playing. It makes the experience that our students have viewing the video much better. Now I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to close my browser once again. Now I'd like you to click at the end of the paragraph right up above tariffs and press enter to create a blank line. Now what I would like to do is I'm going to be adding a local video. This is a video that I've created, and I've stored it locally on my computer. It's this import to Moodle MP4 file. That's my video. Now how do I add video that I have created? I choose Insert from the menu bar, and I select Media. I'm going to click on Video for my file type, and I'm then going to click on Select File. Now that I've chosen that, I'm then going to navigate to my desktop. I'm going to go inside of the KCTCS1 folder, and let's choose that Import to Moodle MP4 file. Click on Select. Now I get to decide how I want it to appear. Do I want it to be linked? Okay, I do, so I'm going to click OK. Now I probably need to give some instructions to my students here. So I'm going to type in, click on the camera to watch the video. Now that's only one way that we can bring in a video file. Let's look at a second way. Let's click to the right of the word tariffs and press enter. Again, we're starting on a blank line. Now let's choose Insert from the menu bar, select Media, click on Video, and select the file. Again, it's taking us this time to the correct folder. Choose the Import to Moodle and select, and let's make this inline. And that once again activates this description area where we can type in a visual description of the video that would be read by a screen reader, and we can also type in a script of the video. Now I'm just going to leave both of those blank for now, and I'll click OK. Well, I'm sorry. Now once we do that, we see this little tiny box. That's going to display our video. Now suppose we start watching it and we're realizing that we didn't make our box big enough to fit the video in it. Well, let's modify that box. How do we modify content that's in the SoftChalk Create program? We point to it and right mouse click. Then we select Modify Media. And notice it put in dimensions. These are the default dimensions that we use. If your video that you've created is larger than that, then you just type in the dimensions of your video. For example, I know that the video that I created is 800 by 620. So I'm going to change my width to 800 and my height to 620. Now, how do I know that? Well, it's because I created it and I know what dimensions I created it as. I'm going to click OK. And I once again want to watch that video. Now I'm going to preview this again and I'll save my changes. In a few seconds, once my browser window comes back, then I want to navigate to the 5th page. Now remember how quickly the 5th page loaded before. Now when you click on page 5, it's going to take longer for the page to load because it has to download that video that we installed locally. Now, once again, I'm going to have that same problem. I don't see my play bar at the bottom of this video. You should be able to see it. Now, what are the problems when we use local videos? Well, the problem could be it may take a while for that video to download into the student's computer before it starts playing. Now, what does that mean? Well, for a video to play, the video has to download before it plays. Now, if the video is not streamed, like it was from YouTube, then the entire video has to download before it will start playing. And that would or could make it a very unpleasant experience for our students who might not have the quickest internet access speeds. As a matter of fact, it could take, if the video I'm trying to get it to play is a 5 or 10-minute video, then it may take 3 or 4 minutes for it to download. And most students won't wait that long. Which brings me to my next point about how long should videos be. Well, if you've ever gone to the YouTube website and watched videos from YouTube, you'll realize that the typical YouTube video is 3 minutes or less. That's a really good planning idea. When you're creating your own local video, you really want to try to keep it short. 3 minutes or less is a great length for a video. Now, once you've created your video, what can you do to make the viewing experience better for your students? Well, a very simple idea or simple thing would be to take that video that you created and put it in a streaming repository, like YouTube or Vimeo, or one of I think there's over a dozen streaming video repositories that you can place your content in. Now, if you put your content in something other than YouTube, then how would you be able to find your content? Or how would you be able to use your content inside of a soft chalk lesson? Let's see. Let's close our browser and scroll down just a little to the bottom of that page. We're going to click right underneath Martin Van Buren. And I now want to add another video. All right, well, to add that video, we're actually going to click on our browser button again, just to start a web browser. Now, once our browser window reappears, I don't really care about going to any particular page. What I want to do is click on that URL or address bar, and I'm then going to type in www.cnn.com. We're going to go to the CNN website, because I want to show what you can do to bring in videos from other repositories that aren't in our repository list in our media search tool. Now, once you're at the CNN website, let's go to the TV and video. So I'll click on that, and hopefully that will take me to the video areas. Now, I'm never sure what's here, but we're going to just take this default video. Now, this is going to start displaying as soon as my browser catches up with me here. And what I want you to notice is down at the bottom of this video window, And where it's going to be located depends on the service, but we see this symbol. And I'm going to spotlight it, so I'm going to get a little red pointer here. We see this greater than and less than symbol. That's called the embed code symbol. If you point to that, it will copy the embed code that for that particular video. So I'm going to click on that. And when I click, it's then going to tell me that that has copied that embed code. Well, it may or it may not, but it will have copied the embed code for the video. Now that we have that video copied, let's go back into the SoftChalk Create program. So I went to my taskbar and clicked on SoftChalk Create, the icon. Let's choose Insert from the menu bar, a widget. The widget allows me then to paste the HTML. So I'm going to click on Paste HTML. I'll give it a name. I'll call this CNN1. And then OK. And I've now put that video from CNN into my lesson. Wow. Now, let's see what it's going to look like. Let's preview it. Let's save our changes. In a couple of seconds, let's now go to our 5th page. I'm actually going to click on Martin Van Buren. Now, again, it may take a couple of seconds for this to load because we've got some local videos. And then at the bottom of this page, we're going to see that CNN video where our students can click on the play button and then watch that particular video. Now, unfortunately, because it's coming from a website, they may have to first of all watch an ad. And there's not much we can do about that. But after the ad finishes, then they're able to view that particular video. And that's how we can bring content in from a repository that isn't in our repository list in our media search tool. We look for the embed code, we copy it, and then place it in our lesson as a widget. Now notice what that has done. Just like YouTube, this is a streaming video. So what we're seeing is the play as it continues to download. The gray bar is the download, and then the white bar is the play, making it a much better experience for our students. I'm going to close my browser window. And I'm back into the SoftChalk Create program. So we've now found how we can add media to our lesson, both local media, audio and video files, as well as web-based media by using our media search tool or by using our Insert Widget tool. We've also found how we can add graphics into our lesson, a graphic that came locally, or a graphic that we found in the Flickr repository. With that, that's all that I had planned on doing today. We also found out all about navigation in the SoftChalk Create program. So with that, we are finished for today. I'm going to ask if there are any questions.